AITC is helping to prepare the warfighter in basically three main areas. Number one, we're designing, purchasing, delivering, and installing critical systems and capabilities to support actual training. For example, these include actual targets that the soldiers use to train and qualify. We're doing that in support of the combat training centers. We're also designing and delivering critical IT infrastructure across the globe in support of Navy, Army, Air Force, soldiers, airmen, and Marines out there. This, for example, includes the Test Network Modernization Program in support of Army test centers. We're also supporting medical simulation. We have AITC employees supporting actual training for medical simulation at the Army Medical School in San Antonio, as well as NATO Special Forces medical training under a contract with P.O. Stry, where we're actually installing an entire medical simulation facility, and we're going to be running that for 2 years. That system includes an actual Air Force C-130 plane that we're going to be delivering to that facility, installing it and supporting it for the next 2 years. So that's one of the areas that how we support training, actually designing and installing, supporting the systems. The other area where we support the warfighter, it's in the actual conduct of training and support of the actual systems. For example, we have over 115 AITC employees directly supporting training under the P.O. Stry Army Training Maintenance Program, ATMP contract. We're running 9 facilities across the U.S., 115 people, and that includes everything from live fire support training to helicopter maintenance training. So we have AITC employees directly in support of training, providing that critical training to the warfighters. The other area that we're providing support, it's in engineering and supporting, installing, maintaining critical IT infrastructure for actual systems up there on what we call real-life mission. For example, we have AITC employees right now deployed to Germany and to Korea, for example, supporting classified facilities up there where we're doing all the engineering, implementation, and sustainment of classified audiovisual systems in there in order to support the warfighters, maintain their skill set in order to do their job in protecting the nation. What makes AITC unique and distinct from many of the other companies out there is in 3 areas. Number one is the people. We have highly skilled employees, many of whom have the actual experience of having served in the military. So we not only have the expertise when it comes to the technology and the systems, but also how the Department of Defense uses those technologies. We also have the skill sets when it comes to contracting, for example, because given the complexities of doing business with the federal government, it's key that we have access to that knowledge base from a contracts perspective, and of course, how they're using the technologies out there. So our people make AITC. That's number one. Number 2 is our partners. We provide our customers the latest and greatest technologies, access to anything, anywhere. We're doing missions in Korea. We're doing missions in Belgium. We're doing missions, supporting missions in Germany. So given our partnership with other companies out there, as well as our vendors, we can definitely deliver anything, anywhere. We bring our customers large company capabilities with a small business flexibility and customer focus. That's truly unique. We can move, respond on a dime. We work on weekends and nights. We are needed at any given time, and decisions are made at the lowest level. That makes us definitely unique when it comes to responsiveness to our partners and our customers as well.
ARCTIC, which stands for the Army Training Instrumentation Contract, is a multi-year program that consists of lots of task orders and projects delivering IT solutions to the Army in various training areas, including Germany and within the United States itself. We produce system integration and upgrades for things that have now met their end of life, and require a technology refresh in order to maintain or improve the training capabilities at these locations. Some of the technology refreshes that we've done recently include radio upgrades, radio amplifier upgrades, network system upgrades including network switches, fiber optic transceiver systems, and some of the typical display technology you might find in an after-action review or other meeting room or conference room used by the training services. So large panel TVs, computer systems, flat panel touchboards, and projector systems. Systems engineering plays a key role in ensuring that we nail down the requirements. After that, our integration technologists and network engineers work together to make sure that that system that is designed is going to not only meet the requirements, but make sense in implementation on site. The user community does not do well with systems that, although they function correctly, do not function friendly. Making sure that the user can use the system intuitively without ongoing regressive training is very important out in the field, where there's constant rotation of new users every single month. So far, we've delivered a multitude of upgrades to systems all across Germany and within the United States. Those systems are providing a better training environment in that combat training scenario, a combination of live fire and simulated fire with the after-action review, where students and instructors can perform their after-action review coherently, make sure that the technology is always up to date, they never lose information, the systems are being delivered on time or early, and always within budget, of course. AITC is very honored to work within this industry, helping the defense industry and other industries associated with IT to ensure that their end users, and most importantly for us, the warfighter, have the tools required so that they can complete their mission safely and ensure that everything is successful.
So I will be talking ATMP, which stands for Army Training Devices, Simulators, and Simulations Maintenance Program. AITC has approximately 92 employees at 9 different locations across the U.S. to include Puerto Rico. So we have a lot going on with our program with the 92 people. We have special trainers, that provide senior development trainers. We also have maintainers. We have aircraft maintainers at level 1, 2, and 3, as well as electronic technicians of maintenance at both level 1, 2, and 3s across my 92 employees. A huge milestone of ours when we onboard all 92 personnel and part of the ATMP, which was a huge milestone for not only the company, but the ATMP program, specifically more for us as AITC, a small company, taking on that many people starting January 1st. From there, we have, just that first invoice by itself, being a small company, trying to get that. That's another major milestone of us, of trying to really understand what we needed to do to submit that first invoice to Lockheed Martin. So that was another milestone. And then most importantly is actually supporting the soldiers itself. We have traveled, we have manned and unmanned locations that we are responsible for itself, where we have to provide PMCS for all of the training devices, as well as surge training, where we have to surge certain devices out to certain locations to provide the soldiers with the best training that we have. And most of those devices, like the ABCATs and the NCM3, we have deployed those, our particular operators and maintainers out to those locations many times. We have about, we deployed about approximately 20 different times for 20 different surges since the program started, just with those at those 2 locations, at Fort Bliss and Camp Edwards, Massachusetts. Well, from my perspective, it's all about that process. When we think about the process from, it starts with a requirement, and the requirement turns into, actual, starts at the requirement level, what the soldiers need, and then we in turn, provide the best possible solution for the soldiers on the back end. That process to get from a requirement written by the user and in turn a device, a training device at the end, so they can be able to train every day on it. So a total of 7, a base and 6 option years. A base and 6 option, that's what it is. When they think of training soldiers, our best the Army can provide, that's our key thing. We want to be able to continuously train the soldiers and have them ready to compete and conduct their worldwide mission. If they have to deploy and fight, we want them to be the best at it. So that's why I think that would be the major success for this program.
Most of the equipment that is given to the warfighter has to be tested. So T&M stands for Test Network Modernization. What that is there are 5 major test centers across the United States. We were charged to go in and assess each one of the networks that they have to make sure that all the equipment there is not end of life, that is redundant, it's capable of carrying the bandwidth, and that it meets the standards that they need to have to ensure all the data that's taken from the test subject gets to the test center or the data center as quickly as possible. It's been pretty challenging because they go from Aberdeen, Maryland, through Huntsville, Alabama, to Yuma Proving Ground, up to even Cold Region Test Center in Alaska. So we get to see a lot of the country while we're doing our job. We have a lot of network engineers. They need to be very familiar with what a test network is. They need to understand all the different types of equipment in a network, from the distribution, devices on the distribution or at the edge, as well as the core. So you've got multiple vendors from Cisco to Brocade to Juniper to half a dozen others. They're familiar with what they can do, how they can be configured, what does it take to set them up, install them, test them. So our engineers are pretty well rounded in setting up and understanding networks. Well, what we've done is you had all 5 test centers, or actually 6 test centers. One dropped out due to another project, but they are all responsible to ATEC, Army Test and Evaluation Command. What we have done is we've been able to baseline all these test centers that have been running rampant for the last 4 or 5 years, to where they're not sure how much equipment they have, what is the state of the equipment. They have some good ideas, but they don't have the eaches. So we were charged with finding out the eaches, which we put together a over 100-page technical report that showcased the pluses and minuses of each of the test centers. So that was a pretty daunting task, which it's paid a lot of dividends, because not only have we been able to save the government money by using several switches, but it's also lowered the footprint, lowered the sustainment costs. Instead of having 6 different models, you've got 3. And it also enabled the leadership to understand what the cost associated with running a high-speed internet or network is. We are the prime. We're in our 4th year. We're getting ready to go into the 4th year of this. It's an asset because a lot of the employees are prior military. And if you have made the connection military, you understand the infrastructure, you understand the hierarchy, you understand when somebody says, hey, you can go down here to the POL yard, we've got one thing there. Instead of trying to figure out what a POL yard is, you know where that is, and you have some of the commonality. That helps some of the language, but in IT, they have their own set of acronyms, which are fun to learn. What that does is that allows you to establish where you came from and where you are going. It has a very step-by-step process that you follow. So at any time during the process, you can pick up and say, okay, here's why we did this. And there's an audit trail that you can follow. And that pays big dividends, because then, as people transition, particularly on the government, what happened, what's the historical thing? And a lot of times we're able to provide them the paperwork saying, here's why this decision was made. So it's a lot of the documentation and helping the government understand where they are, where they've been, and where they're going a little bit.
One of the more interesting programs here at AITC is our support to the U.S. Army's Information Systems Engineering Command. And specifically, it's for the relocation of all the command centers in Korea. And based on world events over the past 10 years, the Army and the country of Korea decided to move all of the command centers out of Seoul, Korea, south. And so what started out to be about a 4-year program is now moving into a 7-year program. And we are embedded in the program office as the chief architect for the audiovisual infrastructure. We also are the senior members of the quality assurance team for both the construction, what they call construction verticals, so we're embedded with the construction teams. And we also do the quality assurance oversight of all the installation infrastructure that the prime in this case is NCI for that project. This is a prime contract for our company where we're actually embedded in the program office. And so it's very unique in terms of skill sets because it's tough to find skilled individuals in audiovisual infrastructure, especially when you have the charge to be the architect and the senior engineer, the senior programmer, and the quality assurance manager, which we have found in employees that we've been able to take about 2 years to find to put on the contract. There are a lot of different aspects about working within government contracting and providing skilled personnel, and over time the challenges are primarily finding the right skill sets with clearances, especially when you're embedded into the information infrastructure that the Army and the DoD has. Over time those structures have become a lot tighter, personnel clearances are a lot higher, and the commitment to long-term deployments and exercises and work overseas get to be greater. And so finding people who want to do that kind of work is harder all the time. We provide a combination of opportunities across the company for individuals to work the prime contracts that we have, but also to support other contracts. So when the skill sets aren't necessarily required full-time, let's say for example over in Korea, where we'll go for 90 days at a stretch, when they're back stateside, then of course we have other work for them to do, as opposed to some companies who are also on the contract that lay their people off. We don't do that. So we do have the opportunity to spread the wealth a little bit among the skill sets in the company, and then they can also offset, in this case for us, the engineering side can offset the work that the folks are doing in Germany, for example, or NATO at NATO headquarters, and back here at the company where we're starting to work on our skill sets and our expertise in training and simulation. Well, for companies that have never gone through the ISO and the CMMI process, it's tough. And we're fortunate that we had a lot of good people working the effort, and we managed to get it the first go-around. And I've been in companies where it's taken several years and several failures. And it's the commitment from the top to the bottom that made it work. And the value on the government side is that they now have an inherent appreciation for the quality of work that we can do. And it's not one of those where we have to prove that we can do it because we've shown we've done it on other contracts and also through the processes.